Um, yeah, there was a lot there. What you described was really good, meaning, for better or worse, one of the things that I'm always trying to lead people towards is the recognition of exactly what you said, which is okay, my back hurts. Here I am. I've got to lie down. So let me explore what this means. Like, when does it hurt? Where does it hurt? What do I do that makes it hurt? If I'm just being still and it hurts, can I be with whatever that sensation is? Can I be curious about it? Can I engage with it? And, you know, I've often said, and it's not my content, or it's a axiom or an old expression in the traditional arts, is ultimately what you're learning to do is become fully self-aware of your body. And so in a sense, it's never about what you're doing so much as how you're doing it. And that comes from having your attention and mindfulness be strong enough that you can stay with the activity while it's happening. See, a lot of times people exercise and they see something and they just do it. Oh, do it, as if the thing is ultimately going to yield something. But that's not what happens. What happens is, if you do the same thing enough times, you start to notice the doing of the thing and the feeling of that. And that invitation into the presence of the burgeoning, of the unfolding of the activity as it's happening, and coming back and doing again, that's what you're tracking. And really, it's just a self-awareness of the
Yeah, yeah,
quality and condition of
yeah,
the movement.
yeah.
Yeah. And
So
then
good.
the other thing that I'll just spit out before I forget it, that's been occurring to me the last little bit here, and it ties into this, is, the truth will set you free. And to the extent that your sense of yourself is restricted to and governed by this notion that you are a body, you're carrying a lot of concepts and tensions that don't really belong to you. So part of it is the recognition that I have control to a degree, but I don't have total control of what's happening here. And all I can do is exercise the degree of control I have to gain more orientation and clarity on what's here. I can't change it, but I can, it's like seeing a red light. Oh, stop. You know what I mean? You could just wander through it because you didn't notice it, get into a collision, right? So it's kind of like that. It's like learning through relaxing into presence to move through the layers of pain and discomfort and, um, you know, I don't know, habitual thinking and belief and all that about this body and all the rest of it, and finding the space within all that. And in my experience, that not only relaxes the body and helps to deal with the pain, but it begins to shed off these superfluous layers of imagining ourselves to be trapped in these little lumps.
Mhm, mhm.
So it sounds like, from what I heard, that you are doing things like, for me, if my shoulder hurts me, I'll explore it. Like,
Mhm.
where can I move? Where is it maybe twitchy, or, it's kind of like you're doing this. You're
Yeah,
finding
yeah, sure.
finding the
Yeah,
light switch on the wall.
yeah. I repeatedly have to remind myself that I don't know what I'm doing and I don't know what's going to happen next. And it's like, oh, yeah, okay.
And that's all right.
Relax. Yeah.
You know
What's
what I
that?
mean? And that's all right.
Uh-huh.
Because a lot of the time we hear not knowing, and whether we're aware of it or not, we think that's bad. It shouldn't be that way.
Oh gosh, yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a discomfort to it. It's never letting go and letting
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So which shoulder is it? Your left or your right?
My right one.
So something we can do while we chat, Jinshen, is put your left hand. You said it's your right one. Sorry, I got
Yeah.
confused. If it's your right one, you want to hold your left shoulder. So take your right hand to your left shoulder,
Oh, okay.
and then take this and hold your 18, which is at the pad of the thumb. So this is the 18. So you just do this with your fingers and have awareness of this area.
Okay.
And we'll move through some things, but we're just going to start like this.
Good.
And one of the things we're always working on is bifurcation of attention. I want to be able to be here fully present in this conversation, yet I'm not leaving my sense of contact. I'm continuing to observe what's happening here from doing this, even though I'm fine to engage
That's
with you.
very close to the ultimate game, right? Is
Yeah,
that bifurcation of attention is both and at the same time.
that's right. Not giving up this for that, not losing yourself to the outside world. It's not negating that,
Yeah.
but it's holding both at the same time.
Yeah.
And then really the recognition of the subtle qualities that you begin to feel and experience and getting curious about those and deepening those is all there is.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's really just creating the possibility of relaxation and ease and all these things becoming the default, because for most of us they're not. And when you understand that tension and stress are additions to your experience, there's something you're doing by virtue of your perception of reality, and that's causing your nervous system to react, which is causing your bodily systems to all react according to the consciousness you're creating through that perception. That makes sense. In other words, your body believes what you think you see. And what you think you see is just what you think you see.
Exactly. Yeah. And seeing myself as Charlie Cropley is, and then getting on that ride is, and then I see, you as Derek Notman and other people, and this whole layer colors everything. And seeing that, okay, right, and just letting it go and letting it go and coming back here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The trickiest part is that the bullseye never moves. It's never about doing something different. And that's really hard for the mind to accept. It's always about sloughing off all those thoughts about what I'm supposed to do and how I customize, or, well, this is the problem. So what's the solution? The solution is always the same thing, to see who has the problem and seeing that there's no one there with that problem. The problem's a thought, and the thought's coming from you, and you can drop the thought.
Yeah, Nisargadatta says the guy, people ask him, what's the remedy? And he goes, stop seeking remedies.
That's right. Yeah. So frustrating and unsatisfying to the intellect.
Yeah.
But if you persist with it, you get deeper than the intellect and it begins to make sense. But part of the challenge is recognizing when we're in the intellect and when we're in the heart space, and realizing that we'll never get to the heart space through the intellect. It can't be known that way, but it can be known in the way that beauty. It's subjective. You might find something beautiful that someone else doesn't, but that doesn't mean that you're not moved by the beauty you find. And it's being moved, being affected by it, that matters. If you say something's beautiful and it doesn't affect you, you're just talking bullshit. That's how you know it. And this is where part of the challenge with this is one of the qualities of beauty and truth is delicacy. And so we have to soften and quiet ourselves to be available to something that's that delicate.
Mm-hmm.
And the paradox is it's that delicate and yet it's indestructible. It's never not here. It's just if we don't allow for the conditions that allow us to recognize it, that's, in other words, it's like somebody talking quietly and all the background noise in a room making it so you can't hear. They're still saying something. It's just you can't hear it because there's all this other stuff going on. So we have to get rid of all that other stuff to get quiet enough to hear the voice of wisdom, to be vulnerable, to feel the truth of not knowing, to really give ourselves full permission to drop into the truth. And the truth is that we don't know what's next. And the best thing we can do is be quiet and observe, because anything else is getting in the way of seeing what's about to be here. Whatever arises is the fresh. It's what's real.
I keep watching what I'm aware of, and kind of wondering what is awareness, like what is this experience or of being aware? I can't have no explanation or answer at all. It's very close to being me.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's where you begin to see there's no need to push away at being Charlie or being Derek or any of that. It just doesn't matter. It's just a layer. It's not there's no need to negate it. And
that's beautiful.
But the bewilderment is the freshness. You see, the wondering about it is the mind trying to get back into control. So you can recognize the wondering and just drop it and stay with the befuddlement of what's here. Soon as you try to answer the question, well, you can answer the question of what's here, but as soon as you try to understand why or what it means, you've gone in the wrong direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
When we seek meaning, we get into a struggle because we don't know. We don't know what it means. It's like both true that we have control and we don't.
Yeah, right.
I have control of my body. I can scratch my forehead, but I can't keep myself from developing heart disease. Yeah, I mean, in a simple sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
So like that's part of the paradox, is this recognition of the control I have when it serves me is put toward letting go and creating the conditions that allow for what I want. When I misuse my sense of control by trying to control out there, then I'm in a struggle. And even if I make it all work, at some point it starts to wobble. And then I'm trying to hold on to it all. Like it doesn't matter how successful you are. It's like at some point you're the guy trying to hold on to your success. Or not. And it's that or not. It's that what happens if I give up? That we have to be willing to meet, to see.
That what?
We have to be willing to meet. You can't just have the idea of surrendering. You actually have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. This moment, each moment is the only time, and the surrender is like, fuck, okay, so everything just opened up completely.
Yeah. Let's see what's next.
Yeah. 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 I think about, of course, an imaginary future. And in which it just is unimaginable because the only thing that's really important about the future is how I'm going to be with myself whenever that future comes. That's what determines everything,
Yeah,
right? And you don't need to figure that out, and you can't plan for it.
that's right.
Yeah,
And the recognition that it's always your thoughts about it
yeah.
that make it what it is.
Well, and your feelings about it, as you say, if you're being if you're being loving, if you're being caring, everything's good.
That's right. Yeah,
And seeing clearly.
yeah.
Right.
But in a sense, they're all so intimately related, right? It's like peace is an
Exactly.
aspect of love and all the rest
Yeah.
of it. And
Yeah.
so the the recognition that how you feel about it, because I kind of want to make a distinction between feeling and thinking here,
Yeah.
is the result of how you're thinking about it.
Yeah, I think that's true. Uh, I don't know. I think you can condition irrational fear too. It just, that the fear itself becomes primary and controls the thinking.
Yeah, and I don't want to go round and round on it too much, but I guess what I would say, because it feels useful to me, is the recognition that what happens with our thinking, right? When we have a good moment, we recognize, oh, I'm thinking, or I'm thinking that. But most of the time, we don't see our own thinking because it looks
Sure.
like reality to us.
Hmm.
We're in the trance. And
Yeah.
so most of our thinking is subconscious. And so,
Yeah.
yes, you can have a habituated fear based response that feels like a feeling because you're not aware of the thinking that's behind it.
Mm.
But I would say there's always thinking behind it because feeling organizes itself around thinking.
Mm. Mm. Okay.
So this hand that was up here is now going to go down to your 19 at the crease of the elbow.
Crease of the elbow on my left arm.
Yeah,
Okay.
same arm that you're holding the 18 on. Yeah,
Okay.
good. And you just hold it lovingly. You just try to stay with it as we move about as we will.
You really love and trust and practice Jinshin, don't you?
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
it's like central for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because it's well, it's just being present with yourself, and the handholds are just a way of, well, I mean, they do a lot of things, moving energy, balancing, and all that. But in a sense, to me, the greatest quality of our embodiment is noticing contact.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's the major felt sense, right? Like,
Yeah. Touch.
yeah, you notice right now your butt's in a chair, you feel the contact, your feet are on the floor, you feel the contact. Everywhere I'm touching myself, what I feel is the contact. And that contact is like a tether, it's like a grounding. And then from there, everything else that's moving, mind, if you will, and all of that is noticed against the backdrop of the stillness of contact.
Is noticed against the backdrop of a stillness of contact.
Yeah. So when I'm aware of contact, and it's kind of like what we were saying earlier, that I can be here and do my Jinshin Jitsu and be talking to you, and this helps keep me here rather than following my thoughts over there.
Yeah. Hmm.
And that is contact. That is a sense of where I
Hmm.
am,
Hmm.
orientation.
Hmm. Hmm.
But, you know, Jin Shinjitsu, the technique, is really what we do when we're not staying in the philosophy. First and foremost, it's a
Sure.
philosophy. And
So
the
beautiful, huh?
simple summation of it is as it is, and as it is, it is. And it is infinite truth, and is impersonal self. So the real teaching of Jin Shinjitsu is the same as inquiry. It's
Hmm.
not being moved, recognizing divine presence in the honorific center of the universe. But the handholds remind us of where we are. They let us drop in deeper. And it's like what I was saying earlier about the qualities. It's like you have to deepen and strengthen your definitions and understanding of these things in your first person experience to grow them to have the capacity to absorb everything else that's going on. If your sense of peace is only this big and your sense of chaos is this big, this one wins. You have to begin to shift that. And the only way to do that is to more of the good, right? You don't try to get rid of the bad, just like you don't have to get rid of darkness. You just turn on the light.
That's really a good visual of if chaos is huge and peace is tiny, that growing peace is what the work is.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And that's why every time we come back to, well, it's like song. Song is song, the Chinese word for release, is the whole thing. It's just we forget to song all the time. We tighten up in a moment. We tighten up in a moment. And the point is like a waterfall. It just keeps coming. It just keeps going. It doesn't stop. And so to really let yourself jump into that river that doesn't stop is a lot. So we go in for a while and we pop out. We go in and we
Yeah.
pop out. But
Yeah.
part of what we're doing is creating a nervous system that is able to stay open and relaxed and clear despite what's going on, even if it's chaos. And the only way to do that is to have the capacity to hold that chaos within the peace that you are and not move away and get caught up in, oh, there's chaos over there. I'm going to go fix it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I found that while I was sick and immobilized, that there wasn't what came up, of course, is the various responsibilities and things that I'd like to do and so on, and the boredom, if you would, of laying there on the floor. And I could see that those were, if you would, all thoughts, all habitual, unquestioned things, and that the fact is that there is nothing whatsoever impeding my happiness. Nothing whatsoever. And if it isn't, if it isn't real, right? If it isn't here and to be enjoyed, well then uh, life is hopeless. And to actually find my freedom, that I'm completely, there's not a reason that I have to be plugged in here and tense. I do not have to be that, right?
Sure.
And as you say, like holding the points, it's I my breathing, my opening, my allowing, being inhabiting my body and feeling it as it is and allowing it to be that way, and really to deliberately bringing aliveness to it is a freedom. And then it comes for me that as I move through my day, it's like if I let go of this, I don't have to let go of it. I just think that I do, right? That I
That's right.
can't go through a day and maintain this second attention.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a practice. I mean,
Yeah.
that's where there is practice and discipline needed. Like if you don't get that it's a game and the game is simple, how are you adding stress to your experience? Because what you said is true. Your happiness is already here unless you think differently. And if you think differently, that will be the case. But when you recognize that thinking is the steering wheel, it is the
Hmm.
in other words, you can always think your way out of happiness. Happiness is the default, and thinking is
That's a
like
motto to go forward with, right? Come on,
that's right.
guys, we can do it. We can always think our way out of happiness.
Yeah,
Follow me.
that's right. But those thoughts are just like clouds.
Right.
They block the sun, but they don't block the sun. They appear to,
Yeah.
and so that recognition of the true default state being one of happiness and contentment, not because something in particular is happening, but because uh, you recognize what's here when you're not preoccupied with what's out there.
So beautiful. So beautiful. It's uh, we really are free.
That's right.
And it's to be tested because I mean for every reason. It's what we seek, but to be proven and to be convinced of and to be like, I want to know this, I'm not making some positive bullshit up here,
That's
right?
right.
That this is the honest to God real default. Uh, that's the testing of it again and again. It's like I'm the one that's here that makes it good, without putting any effort into it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I would say it
Yeah, yeah,
a little differently,
yeah. Go ahead, please.
meaning
Yeah,
it's not that you're the one that makes it here. It is what's here, and
yeah,
anything that
yeah.
gets in front of it is illusory. It's
Yes.
and the one that wants to know, is this the real deal or am I making some bullshit up? That's the mind that has to be released,
Yeah. Yeah.
because that never ends. Because as soon
Yeah.
as you get into that level of questioning, you've gone back into intellect.
Yep.
There is no question about the truth when one is sitting in the truth. And then it's like being in a canoe on a river. As the rapids get bigger and bigger, you might fall out. It's just how it is, right? It's like we all
It
have to,
seems to be, doesn't it?
yeah, we all have to learn to ride bigger and bigger waves, and that's sort of the direction of life, really. And this is the beauty of getting older, is that you have more capacity to give up all that out there. It becomes clearer and clearer that, okay, this is really where the ground of it all lies. It's not in success or beauty or any of these things that are all come and go. It just can't be. And so the real journey only can begin when you are willing to give up all that other stuff. And it doesn't mean you have to deny it. It just means you can't have that be the focal
I,
piece, what it looks
I,
like.
I see it as I um, get more clear about what's really important and and be able to see more clearly as well that that that's that is suffering. And and I don't want to suffer. I really don't want to suffer, and I don't have to suffer. I uh, yeah, I do not have to suffer. And it ties in that there are practices with that. I can feel the difference in my day when I have meditated as fully as I desire and self-reflected and thought and that there's a coherency about my day. It's just like any practice. It's like a physical practice. You miss for a day, you're aware of it, right? It's like, oh, yeah, I can feel the difference, when from when you're training well. And it's
Yeah, and I think that's true to a point, right? It's like at a
yeah.
certain point,
Mhm.
I mean, the experience for me and training and all that has been that everything that's true and useful shrinks, meaning the scope of practice becomes smaller. What you need to do becomes
Mm,
less. What
mm, mhm,
because
mhm.
the when the awareness is there, the awareness
Yeah,
is there. It's not
yeah.
dependent on anything else. But to find that awareness truly requires that this is why the simple, I would say, undisputable first thing that anyone has to do is develop a degree of mindfulness. It's impossible without that because you don't know
Mhm,
where your attention is. And
mhm,
until you know that, you're not oriented. So like then it's
mhm,
a question of strengthening that ability to be paying attention, not as a
mhm, mhm.
stress, but as
Exactly.
an
Yeah.
open awareness.
Yeah. As a discovery, like this is what's going on here.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's very mystical. I mean, talking about it is it just is mystical, getting down to awareness and
yeah.
it's
And so then, it seems to me that all we can begin to do is uncover those qualities. So it's like, yeah,
mhm,
this
mhm,
is what's here. And what's
mhm,
that like?
mhm, mhm. Yeah, it's so new each time because you really don't know, and for me, there's an element of it's frightening. It's letting go and you
That's right.
really you don't know.
That's right. And that's so important to see because that's what actually has to be moved through. And that's like the
Yeah,
atmosphere that has to burn off before
yeah,
you can get to the other side where there's sort of this recognition of, I mean, you're right, it's always new, but at the same time, it's like going home, when you're home. It's always the same. There's a feeling that doesn't change. That's how you know it, that feeling. And so it's like when we just drop into what's here, it's
mhm.
both totally different and totally familiar. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
to me, it's like, and this one is really clear for me, and I know it isn't always for everyone else, but it's like everything changes, but the one looking out. I don't
mhm,
feel any different from my
mhm.
first person perspective than I did when I was 16.
Isn't it something?
Yeah,
I can how that can be.
yeah,
Same me.
that's
Older
right.
body, different, all kinds of stuff has changed.
That's
Same
right.
me
That's right.
watching here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I think for both of us, this is an interesting distinction. But like, I can think about how differently I think about certain things like politics or whatever it might be.
Mhm.
And even though the thinking, the ideology, or the whatever is totally different, the one inside having those thoughts is totally the same. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
that's not who you are. The content of your thinking, how you're trying to make sense of the world, what makes sense to you is all external to the one who's doing the looking and making the sense, you
isn't
know?
that something? Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, it's a complete life-shifting perspective. It's Ken Wilber speaks of turning uh, turning ourselves as turning the subject into the object.
I'd say it's the opposite. We have to turn
So,
the object back to the subject, because part of the problem is as soon as we objectify ourselves, we're in the third person. We're looking at ourselves from over there.
mhm.
But really, our experience is what's here, if it's free from the thought of the third person perspective. There's no self judgment. There's no should be different. There's just what's here. And all that we can ever know is subjective.
Is subjective.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
This is where
And, and
science.
and
Sorry,
we
sorry.
get to make that and we get to make that objective if we pay attention. As you were saying, like now my political philosophies, pick it, my ideas, my spirituality, everything is different than it was 25 years ago. And but I'm not different. It's the same me that knows me now, that knew me then, that same me. And that when that becomes the true subject, instead of thinking Charlie Cropley with his present ideas is the subject, the 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 timeless witness looks on him and knows, and knows that that's not me. That's not the true me there.
That's right. Anything, I was going to say, anything we can say about it is objective, right? Anything you say about yourself is objective,
Yeah.
but your experience is subjective, and it doesn't need qualifiers. It doesn't need validation. It just is what it is.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
so that's really where we live. But because we wind up living in our thinking about life rather than life itself, most people have a story of themselves and they're judging themselves as
Oh
to
yeah.
how they should be or shouldn't be. And all that judgment is from a third person perspective. You see, that's the only way you can see yourself, is the way everybody else sees you, from over there, making yourself into an object. I'm an object for you, but I'm a subject for me. And the same is true for you.
I I'm wondering if the if conscience is seems to be, maybe it's a second person, I'm not sure, perspective, but also a third person of thou shalt not, this moral sense of should. Uh, there it definitely, conscience seems to me to be a faculty that watches over me, that permeates everything and observes and evaluates everything. And uh, the investigation, I think the ultimate investigation for me is seeing clearly that I'm not conscious, whether it's and for me has also been being able to listen to feel my conscience. In the older days, it was almost entirely afflictive, or it was greatly afflictive. And only through being able to listen to my thou shalts and thou shalt nots, and the tone of voice and the type of criticism and the attitude behind it, and all of that, by coming to know it, it's now something that doesn't bind me as much unconsciously, up to the point of now what we're talking about in clear witnessing, looking at it as, just call it thought, just like
Yeah.
that's what's appearing right now. Next.
Yeah, it's kind of like in the old cartoons where there's a devil and an angel on each
Yeah,
shoulder,
right,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
And for most people, what that is a third person perspective looking at themselves saying, I should do
Yeah.
this, I shouldn't do that.
Uh-huh. It is.
The possibility of it over time is the recognition that all goodness comes from God and all negative thinking is the doubt of the devil. And so when I'm involved in this thinking and I have this negative quality, I know I'm in my vanity and my ego. When I put that down and I surrender to silence, then the possibility of this other voice arises. But this other voice isn't at the same level. In other words, am I going to have a cheeseburger or a salad? Oh, yay, I chose a salad. So now I'm a good. That's still at the level of intellect and limitation.
Mm-hmm.
When we recognize that the whole debate about what I should or shouldn't eat and all that, that's all very heady, right? It's like what's here, what's in front of me. You can bless any meal, you can have any meal be bad depending on how you eat it. And so simply stated, the recognition is that anytime my thinking moves me away from feeling good, I'm engaged with the devil. I'm believing the wrong thing because that's not what's here. That's what's maybe imagined from over there, observing myself, but that's not what's here.
That's really, I love that. Moving away from what I think what you said, what feels good, the
Yeah,
goodness that you can feel.
yeah. If your thinking is bumming you out, you're in league with Lucifer. And not to be too overly
Yeah,
religious. I'm just trying to simplify the dichotomy of it, right?
yeah.
There's good and bad.
Uh-huh.
And to be moving toward badness is to be going in the wrong direction because you're believing the wrong voice.
Yeah.
And you know the voice by where it's taking. If it's negative, it's false. If it's clear and light, it's true. It seems too
And
simple.
yeah, it is. I think of myself as being tested because I can really believe that some of my actions merit shame, and there's no question that that they don't pass muster, and I'm then that feels like shit, right?
Yeah. But
And yet I can't, uh, you know, I can't drink that away, right?
that's right.
I got to deal with it. I got to come up there and really deal with it.
That's right. But also, the possibility is to recognize that you're standing in judgment of yourself. And God said, leave all judgment unto him. And so the point is that, yeah, we've all got things that, may feel shameful or not what we want to be doing. But in a certain sense, it's only when we stand there and judge ourselves around it that any of that comes up. And part of what's,
Yes,
to
yes.
me, indicative of the truth of direction is the recognizing that the more you are willing to be open, vulnerable, and clear, the less the tendency to do these other things shows up.
Yeah.
So there's no need to be vigilant about it. There's no need to be so effortful about it. The truth of it is when we're in alignment, it's not a problem. It's only a problem when we're back judging, evaluating, trying to manage, trying to make better, trying to, be
Yes.
the one that's in
Yes.
control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what's astonishing. I mean, the mind can't grab that. It wants to come back here and have it be a problem. You can't. But the fact is, right?
Yeah.
It isn't.
That's right. You have to unplug the ego. You can't play with it. You know what I mean? You have to see it for what it is, and it's never going to allow you to move into that other space. It's anathema. It's like light and darkness can't exist in the same place.
Wow. Good conversation, Derek.
Yeah, nice to
Really
see you.
great.
Again,
yeah. All right.
So I want to go back for your shoulder to just show you this thing again. So
Please.
It's 3 and 18 on the same arm. Then after a while, you're going to move from here to your 19, the crease of the elbow. And then after a while, you're going to move to the outside of your wrist, your 17. None. So you're going to hold it here.
Oh, here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that'll help with the whole arm, help with the shoulder, help with the
bones.
I
can feel that. I can feel that very much.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
So the thing with Jinshin Jitsu, it's like all this, keep doing it. Keep doing it. Keep noticing. Oh yeah, this is very relaxing. This feels good. Oh, yeah.
Very good.
And you just have to stay with it.
Yeah, I like it. Thank you. I will do that.
All right, my friend. I'll see you Thursday. Thanks, Charlie.
Okay.
Have a good one. Be well.